Okay. Good afternoon, Anne. How are you?
I'm well, and how are you?
Very well indeed. Thank you so much for joining us. You will be one of the first few interviews in this series about grace that we're doing
Lovely.
here at SoulAdvisor. And I guess we're excited about doing it because it's a nice time of year to be thinking about grace for starters. And
Definitely.
yeah, and I feel like everybody, it's a topic that is a bigger picture topic, and a lot of therapists that we work with think in bigger pictures because they are looking for solutions for their clients and new ways of approaching things. And you in particular have an awful lot of modalities under your belt. So thank you for joining us with all your experience and wisdom.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be invited to talk on this subject.
Yeah, it's a deep delight, this subject. So we'll go through a few questions, but I'd first of all love to know, how long have you been doing what you do? Because you certainly have a few modalities. I can see timeline therapy there amongst them, one of my favorites, and a million
Very-
other things besides. Mm.
Yes. How long have I been doing it? I've been doing it for at least 10 years now. And because study to me is part of my own personal development and growth, because whenever we're learning, we're also healing at the same time. And that has been a big part of my journey for me and how I've even got to where I am today and being in business and helping other people. And yeah, it all started with a metaphysical and psychic development course that I did and many years ago. For me, I always need to understand the science behind things as well in order to be able to have the confidence to be able to explain how things work and why they work and how that impacts in people's lives. And then that's what led on to the Reiki, and then to Reiki master level. But then within that context, they never teach you how to run a business, how to handle client objection. I can't even say it now. Objections. There we go. and those important aspects when dealing with people and wanting to go into business yourself. And then I still couldn't explain, how does Reiki work? And that's when my own health was also deteriorating, and decided to help myself by learning kinesiology and learn how the body works, most importantly, because I figured the body hasn't changed in many years, and it is its own little unit. And there has to be some answers there for me as to why I was getting sick and not getting any better. And medications weren't helping, surgery wasn't helping, and I just knew that even with surgery that my problems would just manifest again in some other form, which I didn't want. And with kinesiology and the course that I did, we also got the business training component as well, which gave me then the courage to work with others and leave my corporate career behind.
Yay.
Yay.
Well, I think the world can take as much healing as we can all give it, can't it? So,
Exactly.
and you look very pink of cheek and healthy. So clearly you found a few answers along the way.
Many answers, there's been many layers and a lot of work.
It's
I think every day we're still working on ourselves.
And may that never stop. There's always more room for improvement in every aspect, I'm sure. So tell me, when you think of the word grace, what does that mean to you? What does living in grace mean to you?
Living in grace is something that I aspire to, and to me, it adds space, and it adds space around what I do, and also allows me to breathe. Because when I'm not in a state of grace, I notice that it's like everything becomes a whirlwind, and I become more judgmental, and I'm trying to cram in a lot into my day, and I'm just rushing from one thing into the other, and then I don't get time to actually appreciate the smaller things in life and to be creative and simply just to have space to be and in a calmer state, I guess, as well. So I was trying to reflect on this before our call today as well, and it has so many connotations, and as you say, it is a bigger picture type topic. And even you alluded to this time of year being in the lead up to Christmas, people start to think that they have deadlines and they have to get everything done by the end of the year. and then they try and cram in more, and because if they haven't achieved all their goals that they wanted to achieve, and then they lose that state, they go into a state of imbalance somewhere along the way, and which could have other effects down the track. So yes, to me it's about the state of being, and something that I aspire to be in that state, especially when I'm working with clients, in order to be able to hold a space for them and their healing.
It's almost like a precursor, isn't it? I know, having been a therapist for how many decades, that even when I'm feeling a little bit tumultuous or crammed, as you say, inside in my space, that simply taking a yoga class, providing the body work that I created, or doing occupational therapy or whatever that modality was, you actually are asked to go into that gracious space yourself, so that you're able to hold somebody else through their inner turmoil. I really feel like it's been one of the deeper forms of therapy for me, being able to do that.
Definitely.
Grace, so do you feel like over the period of 10 years that you've developed more capacity for living a graceful life?
Yes, definitely. And sometimes I still have to, I regress, I guess, is the term. And but I have definitely developed more capacity for it, especially as I've aged as well, I think, and as I've dealt with more clients and learnt about their lives and learnt about myself, because I also strongly believe that clients come to you because there's still those aspects of you that need healing as well, and we both then get to grow together through these experiences. And yeah, I think every day I get to experience more and more grace as well in my life with that, because you also learn more about what you truly value in life. And, you know, if grace is one of those things, then you make it a priority. And one of my ways to ask that is more so, and to follow that line of value, is to ask my heart, you know, is this in alignment with my goals, with my values, with being in grace, as opposed to what my head thinks and judges as needing to be done and has to be done and could be better and all those types of things. Instead, it's about coming into the heart space and reflecting through that.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful way of putting it. It really is. Yeah. And it's very, very true, because, you know, even though you can't see anything wrong with what you're doing, when you have that lack of heart connection with what you're actually creating, inevitably it doesn't quite work. Does it? It doesn't. It's not in the same flow that that is grace in this world, in this planet. Yeah.
So if the head rules, then sometimes we're going off on the wrong tangents, and it takes us a lot longer to get to where we want to go, if we ever get there as well.
So, and then a while. It might work for a while.
Yes.
A little while. So when you think into the word graceful, what kind of mental images come up for you?
A swan to me is very graceful, and I think that we've taught that it's quite a stereotypical thing, for instance, from children's books and that era. And then Princess Grace used to also come to me always as a visual of grace. And so I always envisaged that if I ever had children, that I'd call my daughter Grace as well, because of that, you know, the iconic look and the movement, and the era where she was a movie star, and what I imagined in my mind what it would be like to be like her. And then also for me at the moment, one of my totem animals is the snow owl as well. And so owls to me are also very graceful in the way that they move and fly, and just like their shape as well, even though like they're quite big and chunky and cute, they're also very graceful in the way that they move. So and then, you know, the intelligence that goes with it, and it's that combination, like a package. He also represents that. But also I see like a big snow, lovely swirl of I don't know, like a gold something glistening around me, and it comes to that. With that comes smells, and using all the senses. Some beautiful music, all that. It's just all
Blown
connotations.
image. I love
Yes.
it. Are you artistic? Do you?
I'm balanced. I've had, we have the what do you call it? The like Myers-Briggs and all those brainwave activities. I'm both artistic and analytical, so I'm in the middle, a nice balance.
That's a wonderful thing to be.
Yes. But I do see things more visually than I do hearing them. And that's like, I'm no good with audiobooks, for example, because we all learn in different ways. And I like the doing, and I like the reading and seeing and visualizing. And when I'm working with clients, that the intuition comes to me better actually when I close my eyes. And then that's where I see and can feel more things as well that way, by cutting off that sense of the seeing through my eyes, but closing them helps me to focus more and see more.
Imagination.
Yes.
Yeah. Or third eye, depending on how you look at it. And a snow owl. I love that that's your totem. Did it choose you, or did you choose it?
It chose me. It came to me in a dream.
Oh, how special.
And it was very special that night, because I've just been reading a book called The Lost Lands that someone had recommended to me. And I think I can't remember what it was referencing, but it must have referenced something about totem animals in that chapter. And often that's when, the awarenesses then open up for yourself, like one of those layers peels away. And then, that night in my dreams, the snow owl came to me and said, yes, it's my turn now to help guide you.
Wow, what a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Well, may he or she guide you well.
I'm sure he will. It's a he, I think. I take what I do is, when things like that happen, is I find relevant pictures off the internet and put it onto an A4 page and post it up on my walls just as a reminder as well. So I have I've got 4 of them up there, and each one has like a little different personality. So it's like whichever image I'm drawn to is the message that I'm meant to have as well, which is lovely.
Fantastic, like bringing nature into your life, aspects of nature, however one can.
Exactly.
Really brings that grace in, doesn't it? And that calmness, that defragging, that lack of clutter, as you say. Yeah, it is everybody refers to it as the crazy time of year this year, when everybody's trying to finish things by a deadline. But something you said before, I'm trying to conjure up the words that you mentioned, but you were talking about the fact that you feel like things are moving in a different flow for you as you've gone on through the process of bringing more grace into your life and moving slower. I can't remember what words you used, but they were very beautiful. And it's true, isn't it, that you suddenly realize that you need to take time to do the things that are worthy of doing, rather than bunching them all up.
Yeah. It helps because we need to be in that state in order for our well-being. Bringing it back to what my purpose is and how I help people, and being in that state also helps calm our whole central nervous system, which then helps our overall health, because then we can actually think more clearly and we can digest our food more easily. Because if we're going into when we're rushing, we go into that state of fight and flight, and then that triggers this on-flow effect to like the digestive system powering down, as one example, and we don't have then the ability to function optimally, but we need to, because if we don't have that nice balance, then it just has an on-flow effect to other symptoms possibly manifesting in the future.
It's almost a rebellious act to slow down.
People feel guilty. I know I used to feel guilty if I slowed down. I always felt as though I had to be doing something. I had to be, even if it was just cleaning up, I couldn't be sitting on the couch. I should be doing something. There was always this sense of guilt, but I have no reason to feel guilty.
Right. I love that statement. I have no reason to feel guilty. It's just such an ingrained thing. We spend our entire school life rushing through things, trying to get things to deadlines. Then if you move into a corporate job, then you have more of the same with even higher pressure, et cetera, et cetera. It's pretty firmly ingrained in us, isn't it?
It is. It becomes our wiring, and that's one of the aspects of what I've studied as well in context of our mental work and the hypnotherapy and the neurolinguistic programming and the timeline therapy. That all helps with helping to rewire your brain. any context. And self-sabotage, that always having to do things and always feeling guilty, it could be a form of self-sabotage, or the guilt out of not feeling worthy of achieving things, and it was limiting beliefs. But all those things they take time to work on, because if it's been a lifetime of programming and neurology connecting, like I always liken our brain and our whole body to a wiring system, in that green circuitry board with all the gold wires on it, that we can actually start to pull that apart and weaken those old pathways that have been developed, so that new pathways and new belief systems can be programmed. And that's where journaling and affirmations come into it. Some people think, oh, that's just a waste of time, because it is so simple. But just through repetition over and over again, focusing on positive statements, positive words in a statement, it's what's needed. Because the neurolinguistic programming states like the mind always remembers the last thing you say. So you can't say, I want to lose weight, because the losing is still a negative word. It's like, I am slim, I'm my ultimate size, whatever size it is for your optimal health and well-being, but always ending with the positive words as well, rather than the negative words, because while we're on this topic, it's like important what you're focusing on, because if you're focusing on the negative things, we attract more negative things into our life. Whereas if we're focusing on positive things, even if we're not in that state of grace, for example, it's like sometimes I just have to, I do stop myself and just breathe and say a statement 3 times. It's like, I am grace, I feel grace, I am grace, I am grace, I am grace. And then eventually it's like, okay, I'm grace. And you touch and then we attract more of that into our lives.
It's sometimes difficult to convince people that they're holding the reins of their own life, but certainly are.
Yeah.
And I feel like you've moved into the last question with grace. Thank you. And the last question is, how could we more fully live with grace? Like, what would you suggest to your clients if you were talking about practices or focuses or guidelines? Started there really beautifully, which is that we have the power to let ourselves know how to live and how to be. But what else?
What else? I like to start with what's in front of you at the moment, like as an exercise, is identifying, all those things that you feel as though you have to do, like writing it down as a list. And, even if that's in one afternoon while you're busy, just scribble it all down. And then another day, like the next day or on the weekend, then review that. And it's like, well, how many do you literally have to do? Or how many of those can be dropped? And then looking at, well, which ones do you have to be done by tomorrow, and which ones don't? And then slowly like picking away at that. And then you realize that we don't actually have to do that full list this week. It's not even achievable to achieve that list in this week. Some things can actually wait 3 months and you'll still get to your end goal. And it creates this space again. And then you can breathe in that moment, realizing, yes, I don't have to do this, this, and this. And then with that space, then what can you do? What will you do for yourself? Because a lot of people forget to prioritize their own needs as the number one thing to look after, and doing things that bring you joy. And so that you're vibrating at that joy as well, and doing things that you just do for the sake of doing them, and for no other reason, just because they bring you joy. That could be like putting on happy music and having a dance in the mornings, or going outside and putting your bare feet on the grass and being in nature, listening to the birds, imagining that you can actually talk to the birds as well. That's what I like to do too. And because I'm fortunate enough to have birds come to my trees out the front where my porch is.
Are you familiar with the practice of radical joy? Do you know?
I haven't actually read that, no.
Right, it's a brilliant set of practices, but one of their practices is talking to animals and trees and developing that voice, the capacity to listen, because a conversation is always better than talking at something. But it's something that we all need to be given permission to do.
Yes, and I give you all permission to do that.
Yay, that's a great moment to end on. I'm going to take that permission and run with it personally. And I hope everyone else does too. And really, really thank you. I hope you have a great and last bit of this year. And thanks so much for talking to us about grace. What a joy.